Devil May Cry.
So I'm Tatsuya Yoshikawa. I'm a character designer here at Capcom. The previous works that I've worked on, I worked on the RPG series Breath of Fire. I've also worked on Rockman games. But this is kind of my first really action-style game. So. This is a really difficult answer and kind of complex, but we started with the idea that we wanted to make a character that really stood on his own. And we also wanted to make a character that can stand up with Dante. So, for instance, they have to be similar because they're both devil hunters. They both kind of live in the same world. They both, being of the same occupation, kind of have to carry around the same things. So we didn't want to have a character that completely superseded Dante, but we also didn't want to have a character that would be left in the dust by Dante. So it was trying to strike that nice balance between the two. So it's not just myself, but everybody on the team wants to make something that, as you said, is cool. So from the first concept I did for this game, that was always in my mind. And how you express that is, creatively using silhouettes, how you attach things to the body, where certain things are on the clothing. All that's really important for making something, as you termed, cool. I think that there are differences between what Japanese people feel is cool and what Europeans and Americans feel is cool, but ultimately the roots of cool are the same. So if we want to make something that goes to that root, we make something that we feel is cool, and we say this is like the coolness of the Devil May Cry world, and then we present it to the other cultures that play our game. I don't necessarily think it's an issue of mixing kind of that Hollywood influence with what we find as cool, as opposed to a broader sense of the evolution of how games are made. So for a very long time, games have been trying to incorporate more Hollywood-style techniques into them. And I wouldn't say that we've gotten all the way there as to the point where we can say that we're doing Hollywood-style productions, but we keep aiming towards that point. So instead of saying, how do we mix kind of the Japanese cool designs that we'd like to do as creators here with the Hollywood-style influences that we're trying to put into games, it's better to think of it as Hollywood-style game making, whether it be camera angles or how you present things, is coming into games. And how do we create characters that fit that style of game making? How do players sit down and play a game and feel like they've spent 2 hours in a movie theater, but they've actually been interacting with that world? That's where we have to think about how to make those kind of characters. So, as opposed to saying I did more research, I would say that I went more through a process of learning and discovery. So coming from an RPG character design background, I had to learn how to make characters that worked well in an action game. What their clothes has to look like and how it's going to move in the game. So as opposed to going on a trip, I went and I sat down with character modelers and with planners who are actually making these kind of action games and talked to them about what they need from a character and what a character should be to accomplish what they want to do with the game. So as they would tell me these things, I would start incorporating them into my character designs. And ultimately, it was something where I feel that I've learned a lot about how to make these kind of characters as opposed to what I was making before. When I joined the team, I think that there was a fair amount of, hopefully not too much, I don't want to make them worry, but there was probably a fair amount of concern that, there's this new guy coming into action games, what's he going to do? And obviously there's quite a bit of motivation inside myself to put new things into the game. So as I've kind of come to know how the Devil May Cry team thinks and how the Devil May Cry world works, I present to them things, and sometimes they like the new ideas that I have, sometimes they don't like the new ideas that I have. But I kind of think that my presence, as we continue through the process and as I learn not only the world, but they also learn my character design style, is kind of leading the evolution of the game, especially since it's the 4th title in the series. As you've seen the game today, I kind of hope that people will see Nero and Dante as they are now and kind of feel that freshness and the spin that I've put on the characters. And if they don't, maybe you shouldn't tell me, because I'm probably going to feel, a little bit like, oh man, I just couldn't get it all the way there. But I'm confident that you'll feel the freshness. So from the start of the character design, on the PlayStation 2, we weren't really able to do things like the way surfaces look and almost feel, or like the amount of buttons, or how the buttons are shaped, the detail on things like that. We weren't really able to reach kind of the level that exists in the design sketches. But now with the PlayStation 3, you have the ability to kind of express those surfaces with normal maps, and things can kind of almost look like you could touch them and feel them. So it's something that, as I've designed, I've worked with the technical artists and the people who are really implementing this to see how we can use this technology to express a very detailed, very kind of realistic character design. And one of the places that I think this is best seen is in the level of detail and the ability to do cutscenes in real time, and how those characters look in those cutscenes. When I started designing this, I knew that, one, I had the power to design very detailed characters, and two, that the expressive power of the machine that these characters were going to exist on was much higher. So because of that, like you said, I incorporated and did a lot of study into fashion design and how clothes are actually made and how clothes should work. I'm also a big fan of really kind of militaristic functional design. So I also wanted to make the characters and clothes seem like they would actually work in the world that they exist in.